So, the newest episode of Invincible has probably the most controversial character introduction of the series, while simultaneously being the most well written and action heavy episode of not only the season, but the entire series as a whole. Spoilers for the newest episode of Invincible. If you haven't seen my last video on the previous episode, go check that out. But let's dive into this. So, to get this out the way, the most controversial aspect of this episode is the fact that we got a new character named Zoe Thompson, aka Tech Jacket. Now, the reason she's controversial is because in the comics, Zoe was actually a boy named Zach Thompson who got the Tech Jacket, and he actually predated Invincible in terms of publication existence. He's a fan favorite character from the Viltrumite War arc. He even got a revival because he was in that arc. And yeah, overall, people just love the character of Zach. His own stories aren't the best, but the character and the supporting cast that surrounds him is pretty solid. You know, his alien girlfriend, Lynn, his two parents, the threats he faced, like Null, the bounty hunter, and the scav engine, to name a few. So yeah, like this character has a small fan base, and people were hoping that we would just get a one-to-one adaptation of the character. But instead, we got not only a gender swap of this character, but they also de-aged her to be around the same age as Oliver. And if I'm being honest, when I first heard this, I didn't really like that because after season one of Invincible, I started to read into the comics. I found out about Tech Jacket through that, and while again his story wasn't really the best, it definitely could have been improved upon, like Invincible's own stories in the adaptation. So yeah, I just thought we would get us one-to-one, but I was still optimistic that the character would be solid. So with that being said, I think she's all right. Like, she didn't really do anything wrong in the episode. I think, like, the only part I don't like about her is the fact that she's weaker than Zach in the source material. Like, I don't know what the decision making was behind that. But if they wanted to make this like a character arc of her learning how to be more in tune with the Tech Jacket suit, then yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, as long as she becomes like more of a powerhouse later on. And the other thing I don't like is the fact that because she's the same age as Oliver, now there's this implication that they might get shipped together. Because spoilers, obviously they never got together. He had his own girlfriend, and Oliver himself like had his own alien girlfriend named Haluma, who in the source material is a shrimp or lobster like alien. And it makes sense due to Oliver's Thraxan biology. And I honestly think that's a unique thing for this character that we probably don't see a whole lot. So by doing this whole ship, or the implication of the ship, it kind of takes away from Tech Jacket, because Tech Jacket was a whole character before being reintroduced through Invincible. And that's something I don't really want to see. Like, if they become good friends, that's great, but I don't want to see it continue further than that. Again, the character is pretty all right, you know, not the best showcase of her power, but it's not like a deal breaker. We'll just have to wait and see what they do with her later. But now we get to the parts that everybody's been talking about, like the reunion between Debbie and Nolan. And dude, Sandra Oh deserves an Emmy for this performance. Like, you just hear the pain through her voice as she's yelling at Nolan. You could hear the betrayal. You could just see this pent up rage showcase when she kept punching Nolan in the chest, and it just kept hurting her knuckles, and there was just blood on him. And I just love that. Like, it's not great for Debbie, but at the same time, I think this was well earned.
Debbie.
I loved you.
Because not only did he create that whole Chicago incident, which created a lot of familial trauma with Mark and Debbie, but also when it came to Oliver, he specifically said that his mother didn't matter, and that really much implies that she was more of a rebound, which hopefully he doesn't hear about it. But speaking about Oliver, his relationship with Nolan is very much strained as well, because not only did he come back to see Mark and recruit him, he didn't even want to see Oliver, like, let alone recruit him into the war. But even with that, you could just tell he has love for Oliver, even though his intentions are really more about his own self-interest. But at the same time, you can understand that he's at least trying to be a good dad, you know? And one more thing before I move on from this, I just love the scene he has with Art, because it is just so poignant about Nolan. Like, Art literally says,
I dress heroes, Nolan.
and honestly, I think it just makes Nolan's redemption hit even harder, because while he can be redeemed, at the same time, he can't be forgiven. And I think there needs to be a distinction. So overall, I just love the tension and the drama that exuded between these three characters and Oliver as well. Now, honestly, we get to the best part, because Invincible versus Conquest, bro, like, that was peak fiction. That was peak. Like, the rematch of the century that we've been waiting for. Like, it was a long time coming. Like, Mark really put hands on him as soon as Conquest said that, like, Eve not only did most of the damage, but he's probably going to go back to, like, hurt her again, like he did in the finale of season 3. And, like, you just see Mark putting in that work. And this honestly just puts the whole fraud Invincible argument to rest. Like, there's no way people can still be on that timing. And when we get to the final part of the battle, like, this is the most brutal thing I've ever seen. And not only this show, but just in animation history, because, like, there's just 2 straight minutes of no dialogue. And while Mark is choking out Conquest, you just see him rip out very vital organs, you know, like, it was gruesome. And the fact that Mark kept going, it's like, I just love that. And in the end, Mark was victorious. He ended up killing Conquest, so now he's not a threat anymore. And if I'm being real, I wish Conquest was able to fight Battle Beast before he died, because I think that would have been just peak all around. It just makes sense for both of those characters. But at the end of this episode, we leave Mark in spaghetti form, you know, like, it's not looking good for him. And this just got me thinking that as soon as Mark comes back to Earth, he is going straight to Cecil. Like, there is no way he's not going to run a fade with Cecil after this. So overall, I give this episode a straight 10 out of 10. Like, this is the best episode of this season. But is this the best episode of the series? Honestly, I don't know. Like, we'll have to wait until the end of this season to find out. But for me, it's still season 3's finale for me. Like, the first Conquest fight was just, like, that was just peak. The animation was on point. And in this battle, it definitely was a step up from the previous episodes of this season. So yeah, like, again, overall, 10 out of 10. Tech Jacket was probably the most controversial aspect, but even then, the character herself is just an all right introduction. And hopefully they do more with her than make her the love interest for Oliver. Because, like, for this character, I just want her to be done justice at the very least. But yeah, if you like this video, go check out another one. Specifically, go check out my last 2 videos on the premiere and episode 4 if you haven't seen them. And subscribe to keep up to date with the next video I post on the channel. So yeah, see ya.